is my 5-year mark for recovery. I belong to a group that we started here in Grand Rapids, Minnesota in 2016 called the Sober Squad.
And for the first time that we're aware of in the nation, the Leech Lake tribal flag was installed in the courtrooms. And so when tribal members appeared in state court, they were able to see the Leech Lake tribal flag flying there in state court. And that really opened a lot of doors. And it not only changed lives for the people that were in the court, but it also improved relationships between the county and the tribe.
We're typically only supposed to serve 20 American Indian women a year. That number tripled the first year that this program had started. And I'm like, whoa, what do we do here?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Stories from the Field, a series of podcasts that dive into the issue of the evolving opioid epidemic in Minnesota. Our goal? Simple. To give voice to those who are or have experienced substance use disorder and to provide perspective into the issue. It's time for Stories from the Field, and today we delve into the lived experience of substance use in northern Minnesota, specifically the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. You're going to learn about an innovative movement from a former tribal judge who now serves as a state court judge and was able to shift what was once known as drug court into a wellness court. You'll also hear from Natasha Kingbird. She runs a program that helps women transition back into society following incarceration. And of course, we hear from a man who is in recovery and now works in the treatment field. Curtis Jackson is a member of the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe and joins us now as well. Curtis, thank you so much. And we're going to begin with you, if you don't mind. And just tell us a little bit about you, your life, when you started using drugs, and why you started using.
Well, my name is Curtis, and my life wasn't very ideal. My parents suffered from their own addiction, so I was always looking for something to belong to. And I truly believe, I didn't find that until, I started using drugs and alcohol, and that's very sad. But I found a sense of belonging, and that's why I think I truly believe I dove right into that type of scene. And now, all these years later, I look back at everything that I went through, and and I never had any resentment towards my parents at all. I know they did the best they could with what they had, and that's truly what I believe that I do with my life. The only difference is, we make different choices, and that's what brings me to where I'm at today. I got full custody of my two middle kids, and then I just recently had a baby born, Curtis Jr. last Saturday. That's a huge blessing, to be able.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And that's a huge blessing to be able to give my son and my youngest daughter, the type of life that I always looked for, where parents weren't surrounded with the use of, drugs and alcohol, and that's something that I feel very blessed with today, to be able to offer that to my youngest boy and to my youngest daughter. And I still, I got custody of my middle two kids. So I got 5 total. I got one that's 21. I got one that's 10. I got one that's 6, one that's 3, and then obviously my newborn. So, the 4 youngest ones are obviously the ones that I care for to this day. My oldest boy is in college, 3rd year. And, I started using drugs and alcohol at the age of about 15. And, I got this sense of feeling that, I never had growing up, and like I said, I was looking for something to belong to. And here this group of kids that, drank and used alcohol or drugs all the time. And here I found myself surrounded by them one night when I was supposed to be just out with my friends. And, and it all just went from there. And it just created kind of like a downward spiral that lasted for, 19 years. I was in and out of it, but the later part of my life, from the age of 23 till about 36, them 13 years was the most destructive that I had. I was engaged in pain medicine, opiates, and that caused me to lose everything. I lost a marriage. I lost my oldest son I lost a great job. I always believed that I was blessed with so many great opportunities that I never seized the moment. I had an opportunity to play college baseball, had an opportunity to be a youth coordinator, and I had an opportunity to have a good job at Leech Lake Housing, but I just never really was ambitious enough to follow through with them and, to further my career.
When did you know that you were kind of, as you said, hitting rock bottom, and what was your recovery like?
Well, when I finally truly found my rock bottom, my middle kid's mother, she overdosed in the parking lot in Deer River, Minnesota, a Holiday gas station, and I went to jail the very next day on my third violation. I was looking at a prison sentence, and I went to bed that night, and I woke up in so many covered in sweat, and I knew I needed something different because that was the last thing that I wanted was, to see somebody die that I cared for so much, and obviously my kids' mom, so I knew I needed something different. I needed something different for my kids, and it was up to me if I wanted that. I have a thing that I abide by, to this day. It says it starts with you, and it really does. And Judge Wawasik just happened to be my judge at that time, and I do believe I just simply asked her to give me an opportunity to save my life, and she gave me that opportunity, and I took full advantage of it, even though I was still kicking and screaming. She gave me an opportunity to go to wellness court, and I took full advantage of that opportunity. And along the way, I fought for my kids, and I fought for my recovery, fought for my life, and here we are. Today is my 5-year mark for recovery. It just happens to be that I'm celebrating 5 years clean today, and I got four of my kids in my life that I see daily. I got a wonderful job that I work for the Leech Lake Reservation. I'm an ADC1 counselor for Anji Bomatis Recovery Center in Cass Lake, Minnesota. I belong to a group that we started here in Grand Rapids, Minnesota in 2016 called the Sober Squad. And we do a lot of outreach, and we do a lot of activities throughout the community. And I've also since been asked to join the Leech Lake Sober Squad. Mille Lacs really blew up the whole Sober Squad thing. I believe we got 22 chapters throughout the state of Minnesota, Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota, and then we do have one down in Arizona and Oklahoma. We have a lot of activities that we do. We have a walk that we did last year in Cass Lake as part of the Leech Lake Sober Squad called Recovery Walk. And then we did one in Grand Rapids, Minnesota called the Walk for Recovery. And then we have an annual event that we throw in Cohasset called Recovery. And all this stuff just showcases recovery, and that it shows people and gives them hope that, recovery is a possibility. It's up to you, the lengths you're willing to go.
And you talked a little bit about Judge Corey Wawasik. Judge, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your work and shifting from this drug court model to a wellness model, and how your work and Natasha Kingbird's work kind of intersect.
Well, when I first started at Leech Lake, I was the child protection attorney for a couple of years before I took the bench. But right before I took the bench in 2006, Cass County District Court had received some funding to do a DWI court and address alcohol offenders. And what we were seeing in Cass County was that people were coming back through the system like a revolving door. And it was one of the deadliest counties in the state for years running. And so they really wanted to try to do something different, but realized that it wouldn't work if they didn't have Leech Lake involved. And because a lot of the people that were coming back in front of the court all the time were Leech Lake band members. And so they really wanted to get the tribe involved. And about the time I took the bench, I was approached by probation and the district judge down there. And they really wanted Leech Lake to be involved. And so we created a new model where we would take the bench together. And this was the first time we figured someone would have to be doing this somewhere, because it just made sense that a tribal court and state court would work together. But no one was doing it anywhere. And we knew that culture was important and that our approaches in state court and tribal court were different. But none of the people that were going through the Cass County District Court, those cases, we didn't really have any say from the Leech Lake end about what happened in those cases. And so when we were invited to come together, we operated for over a year with nothing in writing, just on a handshake. And it was working. We invited tribal members and non-Indians were served by the program. And for the first 2 years that we were in operation, we didn't have a single person miss court, which was an amazing change. And we really saw the difference when the two systems were working together. And we were able to really blend that and bring all the tools from both systems together and serve both tribal members that were going through the system as well as non-Indians. And it's addiction and all of the issues that go with that, hopelessness, poverty, they don't stop at the jurisdictional. There's no jurisdictional boundary. They don't stop at the reservation line. These are community issues and family issues. And so we recognize that it took everyone working together and to change that approach to really make a difference. And it worked. And it worked so well that other jurisdictions started to want to replicate the model. So we created a court that was exactly like the one with Cass County and Leech Lake. We created the second one in Itasca County with Leech Lake. And for the first time that we're aware of in the nation, the Leech Lake tribal flag was installed in the courtrooms. And so when tribal members appeared in state court, they were able to see the Leech Lake tribal flag flying there in state court. And that really opened a lot of doors. And it not only changed lives for the people that were in the court, but it also improved relationships between the county and the tribe. And there were so many benefits that came from working together that it's continued. And those programs that began so far long ago, it was 14 years ago, and they've continued to operate and have gone on to be a national model of intergovernmental cooperation. And there's similar courts that are springing up all over the place. So it really works when everyone's working together and you're able to infuse the tribal values and some of those things that in state court, they don't really have the tools to address that. And so it really does help. And I think that certainly one of the things that we realized is that those Anishinaabe values, the seven grandfathers, as they call them, those help everyone. You know, when you look at those, at getting to those core values and culture, it can help everyone. So that's something that we discovered.
And I want to hear what those core values are in a bit. But first, I want to pull Natasha into this conversation as well. Natasha, you heard Judge Corey talking about homelessness and, poverty. Those weren't necessarily part of Curtis's story, but what do you see, boots on the ground, on working with tribal members? Is there a lot of trauma, which we hear a lot about? Kind of encapsulate for us, if you could.
So I'm Natasha Kingbird. I work at the Northwest Indian Community Development Center, and I work with the Women's Reentry Program as far as jail diversion, women coming back home and finding housing is actually what we're going to be talking about. I mean, so that's one of the biggest barriers that women face and the community face is housing, transportation, coming back into the community as far as dealing with mental health, substance use, and actually trying to find a way to heal. We've done surveys and we've conducted surveys for, I think, over 50 women that had been released from Shakopee or any of the surrounding jails that actually, was the number one barrier as far as trying to re-enter the community. So it's housing, substance use, family reunification, the homelessness, the transportation. And I think with having lived experience on coming back to the community, I was able to kind of navigate a way to help these ladies and the women coming home find recovery, participate in programming. I just kind of use like different skills in that area. I've been involved with the court system and everything like that. And, figuring out like, what is it like to be a good mom? What is it like to be a good community member? And how do we get past these barriers? Because, I think with that drive and having like passion of wanting to be better and do better, pushed me to be a better, advocate or a care coordinator to help the women coming home. Right now, I actually oversee 2 care coordinators and 2 recovery core navigators that actually work with the community on recovery capital, Mikana, that's like the good path in healing. We also have Anishinaabe teachings, which is our 7 grandfather teachings, like Judge Corey was mentioning. We also have the Equawic Supportive Ways, which also implements how do we be supportive to our sisters and how do we be supportive to our community as a whole, right? Because it's not just that person that has to heal. We have to try to heal as a community. And I also want to go back on Curtis's, the Sober Squad. I have really witnessed a lot of big movements, and Red Lake is also involved with that. Jesse Smith, Carl White, Michael Fasthorse, they've all been really good motivators in that area. We actually just did a walk in the Red Lake area that focused on overdoses that are happening in the community, which is going to be brought to Bemidji soon. We're working on that. The Leech Lakers, we're the main hub between 3 reservations and also community members here in Bemidji that are enrolled band members. And we also serve non-Indians as well. I think a lot of non-Indians that come here are they see the love, the compassion, the togetherness that people show here. We have beading groups, we had women's groups, just like sewing, and it just kind of blew up, and one person told another friend and another person told that friend. So we just basically had that space for healing, because I think that we're so Western at times that we have to go see a therapist for this, but in reality that person really needs to learn how to be in communication with other women. Our medicines that we do use help with anxiety, and it could help calm a person down. And so I really support our culture, and I really support the way that we're handling certain situations for people to re-enter into the community.
And I love how the 3 of you have touched on how culture is important. If you could, for our listeners, explain what the 7 grandfathers are and how you're incorporating culture and tradition specifically into recovery and into helping destigmatize substance use.
With our 7 grandfather teachings, we have respect, which brings, a person to kind of think about what does respect mean for them, and we also have courage, which brings a person to, find that inner strength within here, because a lot of people aren't ready to make that move. But once you come in that door, I think people are willing to want to change. They see people changing here and they want that, and I really we pray about that every day. I got to find courage to even get on the phone or this call with you guys, and also we implement humility, and humility is staying humble and being mindful that, there's other people going through this struggle with you, and we don't hold ourselves above here. We're the same as our brothers or sisters coming home. We also have wisdom that kind of comes from having our elders in their truths and their teachings as well. And so we always want to honor those who are older than us, and just also have respect. We have honesty, which helps a person. Once they speak that honesty, it will flow through the building, and will bring somebody to start that new spirit. Truth. A lot of people that come through this program, there's a lot of hurt, pain, whether it be from sexual abuse, domestic violence, suffering your own traumas, causing harm to somebody else, or, being at harm. You have to be able to speak that, and they call it Deboywin in our Ojibwe language. That really, when I hear somebody speaking like that, I'm always Deboywin, it makes me feel really good. We also have love. Love connects that compassion, love that you have, not sexually, but a different kind of love for your community, for that woman to be a guide and be an auntie to her and show her that everlasting, love that women can actually share that kind of energy and be there for your brother that's hurting and try to show him a different way. We have elders that kind of are in this building And if we can't take care of that, then we reach out to that elder who can actually sit with that person and, talk with them, bring the medicines, show them, a different way. And I think it all comes down to aunties, uncles, grandpas, grandmas, your mom, your dad, because a lot of people don't maybe didn't have that as they're growing up. And so I think that the model that we're working with right now is actually working, and we're typically only supposed to serve 20 American Indian women a year. That number tripled in, numbers the first year that this program had started. And I'm like, whoa, what do we do here? But it was a natural flow of spiritual led work that helped us deliver these services to the people, because in all ends, we all need to heal as a nation. And I think that it's just also being mindful of not scolding anybody and not getting after people, because I think it's that trauma, colonialism that our people have lived with. In all reality, some people don't know what they're hurting about or suffering, and I think that that's why a lot of our groups get people to talk, and having like supportive networking and organizations and people out there that are just willing to helps us help the people. And I think that was the 7 grandfathers. I think I said them all.
Sounded like it. I lost count, but it was fantastic. But I do want to ask, you're talking a lot about what is working, and I'd love to hear from Judge Corey about gaps that you think still exist. What would you like to see to help strengthen this?
Well, I think that a lot of times we're, especially when people get to the point where they come in front of me, we're dealing with one individual in a family, and instead of dealing with and helping the whole family. And I think I really see that as a gap in how the system approaches things, that we need to develop more of a family centered model. And to me, funding is always such an issue, that when we the things that we know about how much culture is a protective factor, and how that helps build resiliency and helps people heal and helps to build those connections. Unfortunately, it seems like that when there's grants maybe that programs get to start those programs, but they're always the first thing to go when that grant funding is over. And so it seems like what works is not able to carry on for lack of funding. So I see that as being a gap. And I also think that there really needs to be a greater understanding about the effects of trauma, and how that literally rewires people's brains, and how they react and see the world can be affected by trauma. And so I think there needs to be a greater understanding of that, and how those connections, when those are rebuilt, that people can heal and go on. And I think that also there needs to be a greater understanding of the challenges that are faced by tribal communities and organizations, for programs like Natasha runs, that sort of they need to understand more about the challenges, financial challenges, and human capital challenges, and things like that. And the fact that in so many ways, in a lot of programs, people wear a lot of hats. And so, that they have a lot on their plates. And I think that people don't always understand that, because, and I think typically people maybe just have one job and they do that. So they don't understand that somebody may be not only doing their job full time, but they're also going to school and taking care of their kids and all of that. And I think that they need to be realistic and understand those challenges. So I think that those are huge gaps. I think that it really has to do with the approach that we take, and that we really need to take more of a whole family approach to things and develop that, because that's that sense of community and bringing in elders and getting to those core values is what we need to be doing more of.
Curtis, do you think that the judge saved your life?
I truly believe she gave me an opportunity to save my life, and I often speak about that in my story all the time when I'm given the opportunity to tell my story, because that was simply something that I asked her, was to give me a chance to save my life. And she gave me that opportunity, and I'll be forever grateful, because I look back at the life that I had prior to when I had my encounter with her, and completely night and day. And, she gave me that opportunity, and I was kicking and screaming. I was still fighting, being resistant to the change, but I had so many angels in my corner, and she was one of them. And also I had another one that was a jailer, and he literally drugged me back in there when I was still fighting. Trying to be resistant to the change. So yes, I do truly believe she gave me that opportunity, and she blessed me with that opportunity.
Curtis, before we go, this is your opportunity to speak to others, Native American and beyond. What do you want people to take away from your story?
I was a man of faith, and that's something that I would like for them to take from this is because, when everything was going wrong in my life, and I knew I needed a different direction and a different path, I put all my faith in God, and some people, call him the creator, and I was born and raised a Catholic, but, it was time for me to change and everything that was going on around me at home. My kids were in and out of foster care. They had recently just went back to foster care, and here I was, starting wellness court. It was faith that got me through everything that I had to go through. All the times that I had to go to court, not only for wellness court, but I had to go to court for fighting for custody in Itasca County Court for my son, and then I was going to Equa courts for my daughter. So I was going to 3 different courts, and I was staying consistent with all my visits. Even when I was sick, I was throwing up. I had this lady that gave me great advice, and she told me to stay consistent with your visits, stay consistent with your court appearances. That's what's going to make the difference in order, because at that point they wanted to terminate my rights. And so, faith got me through all that because when I left them with their mother, and I put all my faith in God that we were going to be reunited at one point, and now watching them where they're at today is truly a miracle. They were both really behind, and they both had their own trauma. They both are in therapy now, to deal with all the resentments, their abandonment issues and all this stuff. And I just had another conference with both their teachers, and they're both just excelling in school, and that just really warms my heart. To be able to watch their miracle unfold daily is so much more of a miracle than my own. My message is, don't lose faith, because it'll get you through whatever you got to get through. And I just hope more people get this because it's definitely a better life. And, and our Native people and even non-Native people, they struggle on a daily basis. And, my hand's always there to help people wherever I can, whenever I can, and that's kind of why, the Sober Squad was developed. And, I'm lucky and fortunate enough to be able to sit on two of them, one in Grand Rapids and one in Leech Lake. I hope somebody takes something from my story.
Well, you certainly are amazing and definitely an inspiration. And hopefully people do take something from your story and from Judge Corey and from Natasha and your work. This has been absolutely fascinating. Thank you again, everybody. We really, really appreciate it. And as for those of you tuning in, I'm Julie Bartke with the Minnesota Department of Health with this Story from the Field. Thank you for listening.